right? It'll help you, the individual Chicanos, maintain their cultural or language, and it'll help them throughout their life. But also, it is becoming increasingly a necessary tool for life and for
right.
business and for your work job as well, right? We don't understand that. We're not committed to that today at all. Okay, and so obviously I'm too old to go back, but I wish I would have studied the language, because I am now at my age. I am now finally comfortable with the language enough that I can read Spanish and I can write Spanish. And what I have missed, not having those skills, is absolutely amazing to me. Both in literature, and history, and just in total understanding.
Yeah, it's great to be able to. I was lucky enough that my father, took it upon himself to teach us to read and write Spanish. Now, we grew up in a Spanish-speaking home, but in addition to that, my father would give us lessons in the grammar. Mm. Now, he only went to 5th grade in Mexico.
Where?
But in Monterrey. But they're from the state of San Luis. But the Mexican Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they came here. My father was 5 years old when the revolution broke out, and his family got displaced because they were peones in the haciendas. Mm-hmm. The hacienda was burned down, so they had to leave. And so they left in stages. The women and Usama went first, and my dad and his dad stayed behind. And then they later moved to Monterrey, spent some time in Monterrey by themselves, and wow. Before coming over here. And my mother was brought in over here as a baby. So, but he went to 5th grade in Monterrey, and for whatever reason he kept some of his books.
And the textbooks.
And that's what he used to teach us, basic grammar. That's really read and write Spanish, and he would give us lessons. After a while, he stopped, but he gave us enough where I was able to have a base. So when I started school, I didn't know English, number one. I knew a little bit because he also taught us basic. He knew very little English, but he taught us to answer basic questions in English, like what is your name, where do you live, and he taught us to count. But in Spanish, we learned the alphabet in Spanish, mm-hmm. And read. And then with that, in San Antonio, in the late 40s and early 50s, most Chicano families here listened to Spanish language radio and read La Prensa. Mm-hmm. And that's where I practiced, listening to the radio, reading La Prensa. But when I started 1st grade and knew very little English, I got ahead quickly because I already knew the alphabet in Spanish, and the basic. So I picked it up the voladas. So the other kids weren't so fortunate. There were some experiences that we can talk about later, but see that I had that base in Spanish, and then I took the classes in high school, and then in college at university at St. Mary's, I took. Courses in grammar and literature. Oh, wow. So that's what. More recently, I've practiced it more because of the work that I do now. I translate, I just write and translate my own work for, the lessons and stuff, because all our students are Spanish speakers.
Right.
So I can write and read Spanish.
What's the work you do now?
We have a program that works with immigrants. We have a course that prepares them for the naturalization exam, and the curriculum is that plus a little bit of other stuff,
mm-hmm. Which we'll cover next time.
So we write, I translate all the materials myself. The others that work with me also are good, enough bilingual to be able to do work effectively. The instructors, for example, and we have one young person that we just hired recently, and who just became a citizen herself this, a few days ago, and so she's full bilingual because she's Mexican.
What's the name of your program?
Academia America Incorporated.
That's where we met last time, up in the west side.
Is that a nonprofit organization?
Yes, it's a nonprofit, and we're in our 9th year. Myself and other colegas from the Movimiento started it, and we've been at it, and we've got, like right now for this year, every year we have a commencement ceremony for our students. So in July 9th is this year's event. We have about 70 who have already passed the exam. What we do at that event is we recognize them for their achievement, honor them for their achievement, and give them a certificate. And it's a way to keep them engaged.
Sure.
And
How do you fund the work?
that's the big $64 million question. We started out as volunteers completely, 100%. We've been able to secure small grants off and on. The past year, we've been working on nothing. We do ask students for contributions, and that's basically pays for the minimal operational cost of telephone, supplies, and all that. But we've had some. We've been very fortunate that we've had some substantial in-kind contributions, the most important being in office space, that for about 8 years, almost 8 years, we're in a city facility that was rent-free. And we're in another one which has given us a year free, and we have to figure out how to pay that starting the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So is the city facility through a Castro connection?
No, well, yes. As a matter of fact, it was, but it wasn't because of him. It was, partly, but the other city council persons who we were talking about the legacy, including Cisneros' wife, who later went on to the city council. But the first person in the city council that helped us out, some important information. Each city council person has an annual budget discretionary. They can fund neighborhood activities. So the city councilwoman at the time was a Razonida person who grew up with us. And so we started, then she gave us from her fund the first grant that set us up with the basic computer equipment, office equipment that we needed. And through her connections, we got the lead on getting into the city facility, supported by Henry Cisneros' wife, who was on the city council at that time also. And more recently, we moved just down the street to a place called Avenida Guadalupe Association, which is also part of the movement type of neighborhood revitalization program. And they have a series, they have a number of buildings there, and the current director is one of the activists from that background, and he says, "Hey, Mario, we have a office space that you can have free for a year." He said, "Do you want it?" And my response was, "When can we move?"
Hasta la pregunta el necia, chica.
Hasta la pregunta, yeah. So that's how we survived like that. We've had grants in the past. The most substantial grant from, of all places, La Migra. We had Department of Homeland Security working in partnership with a legal services nonprofit. They did the legal work, we did the instructional part.
How big was La Migra grant?
How big was it? It was a 2-year grant for a total of $125,000. And we're trying to get similar grants right now. It's been rough financially, but we're able to survive because the core group is staff. We're all retirees. Don't depend on other income.